football, a forward's job is to score goals. A defender keeps the opposition attack away, and the goalkeeper is the last line of defense, preventing the ball from reaching the back of the net. Midfielders, however, basically do everything in between. They have to attack, do a little bit of defending, and, of course, control the play with their possession of the ball. But would you believe me if I told you that there was a midfielder who not only had an incredibly low work rate on the defensive side of the game, was incredibly unathletic, and didn't like to score goals, but also hated dribbling the ball? Imagine this, a midfielder who had all those attributes, but was so good at his job he would rarely ever lose the ball. A midfielder who'd receive the ball, take a few dribbles, if any, then pass it out. Because even when pressed by multiple opposition, somehow this unathletic and quote-unquote lazy midfielder was almost impossible to dispossess. Imagine Xavi in the 1980s who had a little too much of the green to smoke. Then just give him an insanely wild hairstyle, and you have arguably Colombia's greatest player ever, Carlos Valderrama, a master of a forgotten playstyle that came long before tiki-taka ever did. Toque, which comes from the Spanish word touch, and involved tiring and confusing the opposition by keeping the ball moving, passing it with your first touch whenever possible. Because like they say, playing football is very simple, but playing a simple football is the hardest thing there is. With Carlos Valderrama being so commanding in the midfield with such a special presence that a young David Beckham absolutely admired him, with Ronaldinho even calling him one of the two only players he's ever admired in his entire life. However, despite his relaxed and carefree appearance, Carlos Valderrama grew up from a very different lifestyle from what you'd normally expect of a childhood prodigy. Because Carlos Valderrama grew up in the small beachside town of Santa Maria, Colombia. And as a kid, after leaving school, he would always go to the beach, playing beach football in the sand for hours and hours, even going on to hone his passing skill, despite threading the ball through the uneven and less than ideal sand. And when you think about beach football, you'd normally associate it with training and improving your dribbling and stamina. However, the young Carlos Valderrama, on the other hand, not only used it to develop his touch, but also the weight and accuracy of his passes. He was so talented that even before his teenage years, he would be scouted by local club Liceo Celedon, showing incredible talent that far surpassed anyone else in the region. However, Carlos Valderrama faced a significant challenge during his earlier years, an incredibly fiery temper. In school, he had a reputation for disrupting class, and on the pitch, whenever he would lose a match, he would constantly get incredibly angry, with his youth coaches finding it incredibly hard to keep his emotions in control. In fact, there was a time he was involved in a late-night altercation in which the teenage Valderrama found himself in a heated confrontation with a police officer, resulting in a violent clash where he actually gave the police officer a beating. This guy definitely had the dog in him. However, this event resulted in him going to jail for nearly 2 months. But perhaps his punishment was the best thing that could ever happen to the young Valderrama, as it was during this time of incarceration that he went through transformative reflection. The experience served as a catalyst for change, compelling the teenager to change and control his attitude, paving the way for a more positive trajectory in his life, and instead dedicate and focus everything into football. But I know, sometimes it's hard to keep your emotions in check. Like very few things irritate me in this world as much as not being able to watch my favorite content. That's why with today's sponsor, NordVPN, you can change your IP address and connect to thousands of different servers in 60 different countries, having unrestricted access to all types of different content worldwide. You can make sure you're able to watch your favorite YouTube videos, TV shows, movies, or streams safely no matter where you are in the world. Like I was just trying to watch some Bundesliga highlights about one of my favorite young players, Jamal Musiala. But Bundesliga blocks their content for specific regions. However, thanks to NordVPN, I can change my IP address and watch Bundesliga videos on YouTube without any problems. Nord also keeps your IP address and other sensitive information safe wherever you are. They've even added new features that make sure you aren't downloading or visiting any malicious websites that may be tracking your IP, trying to steal your information, or trying to infect your device with malware. And right now is the best time to get NordVPN with their exclusive Christmas deal to help you save big. Plus, get 4 extra months for free. So click the link in my description or go to nordvpn.com/Raymar to save big on NordVPN and get 4 extra months for free with their exclusive Christmas deal. Thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. But anyways, after his life-changing experience, Valderrama embarked on a journey fueled by his deep-rooted desire to restore pride to his football-loving nation of Colombia, a country that had been long absent from the World Cup for almost 30 years. Because as a teenager, as he would watch the matches unfold, the idea of his fellow countrymen cheering for another team, simply due to his country's absence, was inconceivable for Valderrama. And that was the moment that he decided that his dream in football was to bring Colombia back to the World Cup. Because you have to remember, back in the 1980s and 1990s, before all the desire of individual glory or the deep notion of playing loyally for any single badge or club, the pinnacle of footballing greatness was representing your country. And in just his first major international tournament, Valderrama would already make a huge step towards his dream. As in the 1987 Copa America, this underwhelming Colombia side with Carlos Valderrama at the heart of the midfield would absolutely shock the world as they would defeat a Diego Maradona-led Argentina 2-1 to finish the tournament at third place, with Carlos Valderrama himself being named the player of the tournament over Diego Maradona. And it was from that moment that the world would begin to know this incredibly unique-looking Colombian with a very interesting style of play, being so good and so impressive that he would land his first move to Europe, playing for no other than French side Montpellier in Ligue 1. And despite playing in a new continent with a much higher level of play, Valderrama would establish himself as the club's main creative force, because the performances he gave for his country in the Copa America that landed him the 1987 South American Footballer of the Year award would only further showcase itself. Because like I said, Carlos Valderrama had a complete mastery of toque, or one-touch passing, which generally speaking often shows a dislike for extensive dribbling. His focus was on controlling the game and possession through quick, precise passes and give-and-go maneuvers, certainly a predecessor for tiki-taka. And in a league where the playstyle was very different, often giving the chance to individual brilliance and dribbling, Valderrama, with his different style and controlling the midfield, allowed him to stand out and dominate the match, as he already had the exceptional ability to orchestrate the play without the need for frequent dribbling. And Valderrama always avoided unnecessary flair and preferred the efficiency of one-touch passes to maintain control of the ball. And despite his overall lack of athleticism and defensive work rate, Carlos Valderrama still managed to move the ball swiftly throughout the pitch, while also coming to aid his teammates as the perfect outlet pass. And the guy almost never lost the ball, because while he didn't necessarily enjoy excessive dribbling, make no mistake, the man had elite ball handling, touch, and control. Because even with multiple defenders pressing him, they would still struggle to get the ball out of his control. Like, it's almost crazy to watch, seeing as Valderrama definitely lacked pace and agility, yet could still use his dribbling to maintain possession if he absolutely had to. Plus, the man was tough enough to fight the police, so even just trying to overpower him was incredibly difficult. So imagine yourself trying to dispossess an opposition player, thinking it'll be easy just because he lacks pace, agility, and you haven't seen him dribble the ball, only for you to find it almost impossible to dispossess him. And scoring goals was never Valderrama's primary focus. Instead, he took immense pleasure in creating and providing beautiful assists. His vision on the pitch allowed him to spot opportunities for his teammates, delivering passes that not only set up goals, but was where he really showed his artistic flair in the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, if the guy absolutely had to, or was in the perfect opportunity and position to do so, he'd definitely score goals. But the man just always preferred giving a beautiful assist rather than scoring his own goal. In fact, his time for Ligue 1 playing for Montpellier was the perfect embodiment of Valderrama's style of play, as during his time in the club, he would only score a total of 4 goals. And you know it's crazy when a midfielder who's absolutely disinterested in dribbling the ball or going for goal-scoring glory by himself was kept in such high regard by his teammates that former French defender Laurent Blanc would talk about his days with Carlos Valderrama, saying, "He was so gifted that we could give him the ball when we didn't know what else to do with it, knowing he wouldn't lose it. And often he would do things that most of us only dream about doing." and it was Valderrama's experience becoming an even better player in Europe that led to him captaining his team and achieving his dream of bringing his country, who had failed to qualify for almost 30 years, to the World Cup in 1990, leading his nation as the team's captain. And together with another incredibly unique and iconic Colombian player, René Higuita at goal, Colombia would finally be considered as one of the best squads in South America. And although they only reached the round of 16, which for some countries might even be a disappointment, for the Colombian people at least, Carlos Valderrama was an icon, a hero, and a living legend. And for the 1994 World Cup, Valderrama would once again lead his country to qualification, giving his team their biggest ever win against Argentina with a historic 5-0 trashing. Then finally in 1998, he would conclude the most successful era in Colombian football history, bringing his country to their 3rd consecutive World Cup appearance. In fact, in 1998, Carlos Valderrama was so beloved and popular that he would feature on the cover of Pro Evolution Soccer. And while he may not have won the World Cup or Champions League, with his biggest piece of silverware only being a coup de France during his time in Montpellier, the reason why he was such a beloved footballing icon was simply because his only dream was to revive Colombia as a footballing nation from the ashes. Beyond club success, he wanted to resurrect the ambition that Colombia once had, inspiring countless young footballers to play not only for trophies or success, but for the pure love, honor, and dedication of the game, becoming the first Colombian to ever be inducted in the FIFA 100, winning 2 South American Player of the Year awards and a Copa America Golden Ball, while also holding a record in the MLS for most assists in a single season with 26, a record that he achieved at 39 years old. With his unique playstyle, iconic passion for the game, and wild appearance, Carlos Valderrama is a footballing icon that's incredibly difficult to forget.